Okay, I think we should be all set. All right, thanks for your patience, guys. Welcome to Optimum's first community call here. We're excited to have you all. I'm Chandler, and I'll be kind of guiding and moderating this first session. We have a really packed and insightful agenda ahead, and we'll be reviewing the meme contest winners kind of later in the call, so definitely stay tuned. Eli, if you can drop the Pigeonhole link in the chat now, that would be awesome. So we're going to be leveraging Pigeonhole for our live Q&A later on in the call. So if you are listening to us and can think of any questions, feel free to join that link, drop any questions you have, and you'll be able to upvote your question or other people's questions and the ones you really want to hear answers to. And then we'll kind of get to those later in the call. So in terms of the agenda, we'll start off by kind of introducing each of the founding team here, and why we're excited about building Optimum. We'll do a deep dive Q&A from the questions you've pre-submitted in the form, and then the live Q&A on Pigeonhole, meme contest, and then a few closing words and community updates. So let's jump into it. First, huge shout out and thank you to our moderators. They've been really excellent kind of keeping the Optimum community thriving here on Discord. And now let's get to the team. So each team member will share a little bit about their background, why they're excited about Optimum, what makes this project unique, and how they stay connected with you guys. And so I'd like to kick it off with our CEO and co-founder, Muriel Medard. So go for it, Muriel. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chandler. And I'm just thrilled to see this wonderful community, so many people, and I really appreciate all of the support and encouragement and positivity that you have been sending our way. Really, really love it. I'm Muriel. I'm a co-founder, CEO of Optimum, and it's really an amazing milestone for me to be talking to you today. And this is, a very, very long dream in the making. The work has started in my lab at MIT about 20 years ago. We've been working on it. And really seeing this come to life is really a dream come true. So thank you for being part of that journey.
And why don't you take the next intro here?
Yep. No, double clicking on Mura's excitement. It's the same for me, but from another angle. So Mura has been researching RNC, network coding in general, and decentralized system for many years. I come from an investor angle, so been looking at the space since about 2017-18. Participated in some ICOs back in the days. Played with many different projects, looked at probably over 1,000 projects through an investor's lens. And I've been thinking, number one, how can we build something that is not just a copycat, build something on a new chain that have been built 1,000 times before, but also something that is truly expanding the whole Web3 sphere as a whole. So push the entire Web3 one step further into something that can be better suited for bringing the whole world on chain. And when I connected with Muriel and our other co-founder Kishori, their vision that and their research that I've been doing in the years really came out live. And I was really excited to jump in and do this together. Relocated from Singapore to Boston back then, and was running Harvard Blockchain Club. That's when Muriel and I and Kishori, we all came together. And that founding story was still dear to my heart. Just last weekend, we were at another Harvard Blockchain Conference 2025, and it was like where the dream started. We posted a tweet on Twitter about that recently. So if you've been following, you probably saw that as well. We'll go into a lot more. We'll be answering some community questions that we have received in the survey that we've sent out before. So look forward to interacting more with our community through that. And the Pigeonhole link that Eli has sent out and probably also pinned somewhere. Feel free to enter your questions right now. We will be, interacting with that live after we answer the questions that you've submitted before. And we'd love to just get you involved in various ways how we build our community. I think one of the questions was around that, so I'll save more details for later. But very, very excited for this first community call, and thanks for being here. I'll pass it to Eli.
Cool, thanks, Kent. Hey everybody, Eli here. I'm the head of marketing at Optimum. I've been with the org just over 3 months now, although it feels closer to a year because a lot has happened in a very short period of time, as is typical in Web3. I know we all kind of feel that. Before Optimum, I've spent the last 15 years working in early stage tech startups. So I've been in a whole bunch of different industries, from athletics to insurance and reinsurance to architecture and 3D design to health tech, always in a go-to-market type of role, marketing, partnerships, product marketing, and more recently in Web3. So directly before Optimum, I was the first marketing hire and marketing lead at an interoperability network called Axelar, which some of you guys may be familiar with. Axelar is a cross-chain interop solution that supports probably 70 plus chains at this point: Cosmos, EVM, some of the new chains like Sui. And like I said, I joined that project at a very similar stage to where Optimum was 3 months ago. It was 15 really talented engineers, an amazing co-founding team, a couple of operational folks, but the project was quite early. We were maybe just preparing our testnet. We had a very simple website out. And so I got to go on a really cool adventure at Axelar, building that organization up, building the go-to-market kind of function up from nothing, to testnet, to mainnet, to token, to exchanges, to a really kind of vibrant community, So I'm looking to do that adventure again. And I think, we have all of the key pieces in place here at Optimum, a really amazing founding team, really novel tech, a very real problem to be solved, with customers who are very interested in solving it already, which is all of the key ingredients you need for a real rocket ship. And then with the community, you guys have already come out real strong. We went from literally 24 people in the Discord 2 Mondays ago. 24 people, we knew every single one of them. Now, I think there are over 250,000 people in the Discord. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. You guys have come up with a lot of energy. I think the community is a key piece of building and accelerating that rocket ship. So super pumped for working together. I think we're going to be producing some really cool, really engaging and rewarding programs for all of you guys. So stay tuned. Chandler, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Eli. So I'm Chandler Otterbein. I do strategy and operations here at Optimum. And my background in the blockchain space initially kind of began as a trader. I was interested in the volatility of the crypto market and thought there'd be an opportunity to make some money there. And I started to look into blockchain technology and really started to get obsessed by it and the ethos of the space, and became a researcher and ultimately president of Northeastern University's Blockchain Technology Club. And it was in that Boston blockchain network where I met Kent when he was the Harvard blockchain president. And I started supporting Kent with some research. And ultimately, he invited me to the Harvard blockchain conference last year as a host. And that's kind of where our origins kind of began. So I was involved early on with Kent and got connected at that Harvard Blockchain Conference where we met Muriel uh, and things started from there. Optimum is just extremely exciting to me because we're really creating this new narrative in the modular infra space, and having this performant networking layer and data layer for the space is just really critical for blockchains. We see a lot of projects really focusing on the execution layer, the consensus layer, and kind of overlooking this networking data side of things. And to be a part of the project that's stepping in and creating that new narrative in the space is extremely exciting. One of the things I would learn about early on in my understanding of blockchain was this blockchain trilemma concept, and that you can't have a chain that's both centralized, scalable, and secure. So to be a part of the team that's really challenging that misconception and building a product that goes beyond that misconception is extremely exciting. On the community side, uh, I'm helping to structure exciting campaigns for you all, and um, I really enjoy kind of interacting on X and Discord. So if you're going to make a post, whether that's a meme or a thread, feel free to tag me and the Optimum account and the team here, and I'll do my best to check it out, read what you've written, and leave a like if I can. So with that, I'll hand it off to Rob to introduce himself.
Yeah. Hey guys. I'm the social media lead, so if you're tweeting at us, that is me. I read those. I read all the replies. I see it all. I also try to hang out in the Discord, of course, and chat with you guys there when I can. But I'm mostly just on crypto Twitter, like 24/7. That's kind of my job at this point. I used to work at an agency and with a bunch of different clients across Web3. After that, decided, hey, it's best to just find one team where I can really dial in and grow something. And one of my friends from the agency put me in touch with Eli, and I just started here less than a month ago. So pretty new to the team, but already been really enjoying, the energy that I'm seeing with them, and of course with you guys all over socials. So much good stuff on there. Really enjoy just interacting with everybody on a daily basis. And I think, the Optimum team is special. Like, we're building something that is very legitimately going to contribute to the benefit of the entire space. Scaling all these different blockchains, that's something that, helps us now, but also in the future with the onboarding of, just the masses into Web3. And that's something I'm really excited about. And yeah, I'm just here to post some good memes, some good educational content, and help grow the project.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Eli, if you can pull up the slide deck that we have, it's time to get to all the awesome questions you guys have submitted. So we'll go through first some of the pre-submitted questions that you guys had sent in via the form, and then we'll get to the live questions afterwards. So,
How's that coming through? Is that working?
yeah,
Yep.
that looks
Yeah,
fine.
I see the slide. It's like full window, not.
I think we have to stick with it that way.
It's fine. It's
No
just a
problem.
tab.
All right.
Okay. So the first question, if you want to jump to that slide, Eli, was submitted by Netman. And it's, how can Optimum's use of random linear network coding overcome some of the current limitations of blockchain in terms of speed, scalability, and storage costs? And what impact could that have on the development of decentralized applications in fields like gaming, AI, and social networks? So Muriel, why don't you kick us off with this first question?
Yeah, happy to do that. And thank you for the really good question, Natman. So I just wanted to give a very quick overview, and I know many folks here on the space already know about it, but what random linear network coding does is it's creating equations in a completely decentralized way, and it's creating equations from equations without having to go back to the original data. So inherently, it is completely decentralized, which at first would seem to make you think that it would be sluggish, or that somehow you would be able to do better if you had a centralized system, whether it was a single controller just controlling all of Web3. But actually, and this gets back a little bit to something that Chandler mentioned before with a little bit of the misunderstanding around the trilemma. And I think there's another question on that later. Actually, what it does is it optimally makes use of all currently available resources. So, whatever resources you have in your system, whether it be bandwidth, whether it be memory, this makes optimal use of that. So I saw that some folks actually asked about the testnet. We're starting with a private testnet with some partners, and what we're seeing already is a multi-x speed up, even just on the propagation side, without having gone yet on the memory side, just the propagation side, but multi-x speed up. And what that means is that the sluggishness, the latency, which basically discourages you from using dApps because you're like, this is too slow, and this is not fun, or I don't want to have to start something, go get a cup of coffee, come back, it's not done yet. That goes away. And it goes away both because it's faster on average, but also very importantly, what this coding does, it also really tightens the certainty of being done by a certain time, which is really important, right? Because you're doing something, you'd like to know when it's actually going to get done. And if sometimes it gets done very fast and sometimes it gets done very slowly, it's not like you're thrilled because you go, well, on average it did well. It's also important not just to do well on average, but to do really well in a consistent and reliable fashion. So randomly network coding gives you that edge, because, as I said, it provably and optimally, that's actually the root of the name of our project, Optimum, provably and optimally makes use of the resources.
Awesome. So the next question is from Boangus86. How do you handle potential memory bottlenecks when blockchain networks experience transaction surges, such as during a major NFT launch or DeFi events? Kent, do you want to take this one?
Sure, I can kick it off, and Mira, feel free to add to it. As you guys know, right? Like there have been quite a number of such transaction surges, back in the history. You can kind of trace back as old as to like the CryptoKitty times, or to the DeFi summer, or to the Bored Ape, other side launches, and to more recently, some of the Solana meme seasons, where you have also seen lots of surge in transaction cost, and also lots of increase in the failure or dropped transactions. And that's not ideal, right? That has created user experience that is a little bit frustrating, to be honest. Me having tried those things firsthand, and the real problem lies indeed in the memory of this world computer, whether you're Ethereum or Solana or any other favorite chains you love. And you will face it, sooner or later. Like if a chain hasn't faced it just yet, it doesn't mean that you will never face it. It probably means it just doesn't have enough demand just yet. So, as more people use it, you run into memory problem. If you don't trust me, open 10 mega games on your computer and you will face it yourself. That is the problem you face with memory. And it is something that is solvable, right? It takes the right architecture to address that, and that lies into kind of two major components. What we mean by memory, which is bus and a RAM. And I know that could sound scary and technical, but let us help you unpack very quickly. So bus is essentially the component in computer that moves data at high level. And RAM stands for random access memory. It's where you register data and you read and write. So putting those two together, you have memory. There's some caveats around that, but by and large, you have memory. And in Web3, what that means is Number one, bus equivalents to data propagation in Web3. And that's what we provide through Optimum P2P, our first product. It's a fast data propagation network that helps any network to move data faster. And that means the underlying nodes that are supporting those networks, again, could be Ethereum, Solana, sync up with each other much more quickly. That's Optimum P2P. The second part, Optimum DRAM, clearly correspond to the RAM in the memory in the computer, essentially is a real-time state machine. If you think about what blockchains are, those are ledger, and ledgers are essentially state machines. It has account and balances. It tells you how much balance, how many token you have in your account, and that is the state. It's important that that state is maintained real-time, synced up across a network of a huge number of nodes. At the same time, you can read write very quickly. And current approach to decentralization really find it difficult to do both the fast propagation and real-time read write. And we're bringing both to the table and delivering one at a piece to support major networks today and maybe some of your favorite networks in the future. So stay tuned, and we hope to address that memory bottleneck for you, for our community, but for broader Web3 at large.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to Kent's excellent comments. It's imagine if instead of having RAM on your computer, you were having to do everything by going to like a disk, and reading and writing to a disk. That's not very far off from what we're having to do now. Or else you'd have some, kind of amorphous blob, which would be, say, mempool, and you sort of you in the process of doing work, and you'd have to go look in that blob all the time and see if the different computations you're doing are done or not. You wouldn't run a computer that way.
Yeah, thank you guys for breaking that down. The next question here comes from Vito9519, and it's given that Optimum leverages RLNC to create a high-performance memory layer for blockchains. How does this approach address the trade-offs between scalability, latency, and decentralization compared to existing solutions like rollups or sharding? And could you share a specific or practical example of how this might enhance the user experience in a specific dApp?
Yeah,
Ariel, do you
thank
want
you.
to start this one? Yeah.
Maybe I can start, and anybody else jump in. Maybe Kent or someone else. So this is a very thoughtful question. Thank you very much, Vito 9519. So if you look at the scalability and decentralization, and then I'll talk later about latency. So scalability and decentralization are actually not a trade-off with respect to each other. You need decentralization to be scalable. Any system, and there's actually mathematical results around that. And at some point, I think we might write a brief piece on it. But if you think of all the networks that are out there right now, technological networks that are scalable, Web 2, for instance, they have to be decentralized. And it doesn't mean that there may not be pockets of centralization, they might, but overall, a network, in order to be scalable, has to be decentralized. That was actually what got me working on this before there was really a Web 3. I knew that we had to go decentralized. Now, I did not know when. If you had told me it would take me 5 years or it would take 50, I would have believed either. I didn't know if it'd be in my lifetime or right away, but it's inevitable that you have to go decentralized. Otherwise, you basically will not scale. Similarly, actually, with things like the electric network, the electric grid, and you can see if it's not sufficiently decentralized, actually you have problems. You can see all the issues that were happening in Europe, a few days ago. So that's really important. It's actually not a trade-off. Now let's go to the latency, because in the latency, this goes back to what I was saying before, that you would think that somehow having a centralized controller telling everybody when to go would be more favorable with respect to latency. But actually, if you're looking like in something like gossip, which Kent mentioned, so our Optimum P2P, if you're looking at the time that it will take to disseminate information as quickly as possible, you cannot do better than our LNC. And this is provable. One of my former students, Bertrand Hoppler, proved this, that, if you gave me two systems, one where there's like an omniscient controller that's seeing everything that's going and, sending everybody with one message or the other, or on the other, an RLNC system, which is completely clueless and is basically just recreating creating new equations from old equations in a completely decentralized, uncoordinated manner, you will never do better than the RLNC system. And I wanted to touch on this then to the question of sharding that you brought up. So sharding, basically, what you're doing is you're trying to make your traffic more fluid, and RLNC will use sharding, but rather than using sharding and then leaving it there, it uses sharding as a first step towards creating these equations that are then being transmitted and disseminated in this uncoordinated fashion in Web3. So sharding is just the first step. It's not a sufficient step, but it is something that we use. I'll go to the last point that you asked about, which is rollups. Rollups are basically, taking a variety of different requests and sort of turning them into a single request. What Optimum does is it actually helps rollups, because to have a really efficient rollup, you actually want to download as many requests as possible, in effect, to create this meta request, which is what rollups do. And you will do so most efficiently if your propagation latency is as low as possible, so that you can capture the maximum number of requests before going and putting them out there as a single unified request. So it actually helps rollups. It's not a trade-off at rollups. It uses sharding, but it substitutes it, if you will, it adds a much more powerful approach. And that trade-off among the latency, decentralization, and scalability is actually not a trade-off. They all are synergistic with each other.
That's super helpful explanation. The second half of this question asks about a practical example of a DApp. So could one of you, either Kent or Muriel, kind of give an example of a DApp, and what does this solution that we're bringing to the table mean for, maybe it's a DeFi trading app or something along those lines?
Yep. I'm happy to talk about that. And DeFi trading is probably something that people are most familiar with in the space in terms of a DApp. So I can use that as an example. So number one, when you submit a trade, well, even before that, when you look at the chart, right, we're already at play, right? Because the charts, especially for memes, in case some of you love it, requires really real-time updates of the chart, right? Even 1 second matters. So there are solutions today to help make sure that keeps up with the really real-time, what is at the tip of the blockchain, what's really happening. And there we're already helpful, even before you enter a trade. Now, as you think about a trade and you decide to input one, you submit your transaction, we're kicking in, right? So before Optimum, transactions kind of move through that blockchain slowly, reaches all the node. Someone will need to collect your transaction and propose it, and other nodes will have to agree to it. But it's kind of slow, depending on which chain you're at. And with Optimum P2P, we allow your transaction to then go to these nodes very, much more quickly, and enable your transaction to be included in the next block, right? So that your transaction, one, don't necessarily get dropped, which is happening in today's situation, and two, the overall throughput of the chain that we're supporting also gets improved, such that the overall number of transactions that can go through, and is widely known as TPS, transaction per second, can improve. for that particular blockchain. And that means an average experience for any user to be improved. And with that higher throughput, it also translates into lower transaction cost. So back to the first question, when there's like congestion, you will face less of that kind of a transaction cost surge. And that is something that you can feel very vividly as a DeFi user. And similar principle applies for other type of throughput and throughput and latency sensitive dApps.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, let's move on to the next question. I'm watching the live chat. Everyone's wondering about community related stuff. So luckily this next question is about that for you guys. How does Optimum plan to maintain its community first spirit as it scales up and attracts new users? Kent, do you want to take this one?
Absolutely. And this one, and maybe we can also take a look at the next one, really are both community centered questions. Eli, feel free to also show the next question. It's all about how we put community first, right? It's not just about marketing or community. I think there's a big part where community can play in the development of the projects. We want to hear you in terms of your feedback, in terms of your suggestions, and there are at a high level we see a couple parts. Number one, we take our community's input very seriously, and we really appreciate that there's such a big group of community, even from day one, to be here with us to provide us that feedback. So that feedback will guide us in terms of how the next steps of our projects is going to be, how our roadmap evolves, how do we communicate with you on the marketing and community side. So both of that. Then in terms of us getting a spot in this industry and kind of creating this category, right? I hear from many of the community members that they have never heard of such word as memory of Web3, and it is true. It is a new category that we are creating, and the creation of a category requires a lot of effort. And with that effort, it comes with pretty interesting reward. The exercise of creating a new category requires really a lot of education of not just our own community, but community of other projects, right? So when for example you talk to, I'm sure a lot of you are involved in beyond one project. When you talk to your community friends in other projects, feel free to talk to them about Optimum. Tell them how Optimum can help their projects, whether it's a L1 L2 chain or a node operator, a developer or a dApp, etc. Help them make that connection, right? Help Optimum spread the words. And some of you are already creating a lot of memes, cultural content. We love them, right? And threads, some of you are crafting threads and infographics that are better than what we could have explained and could potentially connect better with your own community, your local community, or people of a particular, you can connect with them better. It could be languages. So those are a lot of ways where we think our community can get involved. And going forward, we're going to create more kind of structures into role systems. There is a lot of excitement about ambassador programs. We hear that a lot. We are working on that. And there is going to be potentially even direct opportunity for you to be hands-on with Optimum and not just look at it as an infrastructure project, but there is a way for community to be, kind of like, we look at Optimum as something is by the community and for the community, right? And that's something that we're working on the Flex node side, and we'll release more and more details going forward to help you understand how you can stay involved. So there's a lot of exciting things in the planning, and we're very excited to work with you all on that.
Yeah, maybe if I can just add, Kent, I love the way you framed it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Flex nodes, which are basically our ultimate goal in Optimum. So this completely decentralized system for the data propagation and the data access and storage will be relying on you. We'll be relying on a community running nodes. You can, of course, right now in Web3 run nodes like validators. Those are super crucial for the well-being of the ecosystem, but it's pretty expensive to run a validator node. You need to be on, you need a certain piece of hardware. I saw a question actually in the chat of, what kind of hardware do you need in order to participate in Optimum? And the answer is it's going to be really, really low. If you have a computer, which you all do pretty much now because you're participating, you would be able to run a flex node. Your flex node will be creating these equations, taking equations from others, and basically propagating information and then storing and delivering information in a completely decentralized, censorship-resistant way, and in a way which is allowing you to get rewards when you're on, when you're able to have your node on, your flex node on, and you're always participating in a positive way. So it will provide a massively democratized, extremely inclusive way for people to participate in making Web3 be much faster, more resilient, and more useful.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, really exciting things planned ahead. With that, let's jump into the Pigeonhole for a live Q&A. Eli, if you could pull that up. Awesome. Maybe Rob, do you want to kick us off with a question that you have in mind?
Yeah, I feel like a bunch of these have been answered throughout the call, but I think one that's worth, doubling back on is what are the use cases of Optimum? That's just one of the most important things. So maybe Kent, if you want to talk through like the different stakeholders who can benefit from Optimum, all the way from validators down to end users a little bit.
Absolutely. And indeed, many of these questions are connected. So in answering one question, we could very much be touching on others. And in the next 10 minutes, we will try to get through kind of as many questions that you guys are asking as possible. And by the way, you can also scan the QR code live on the screen right now to submit your questions or upvote some of the questions that you are seeing on the screen so that we know which questions our community, you all, really care about. So to your question, what are the use cases of Optimum? And really it touches on who benefits from Optimum. So that is a question that I get asked a lot and we get asked a lot. And it's really interesting because there's a huge sphere, context sphere that Optimum has with the entire world of Web3. It goes all the way from L1, L2s themselves to the underlying node operators and validators, to the dApps and the developers that are building on top of those, and all the way down to end users, whether you are a direct user of the blockchain or just trading these tokens. So let me quickly kind of give a touch and feel on each level. On the blockchain side, the L1, L2s, you will feel, or they will feel, that it become faster and cheaper. That cascade down to the end users. It helps make the user experience and the developer experience more smooth. And we don't talk about it too much because the space really cares more about speed and cost, but we also help with the decentralization and security underneath. So it's really pushing the entire boundary of performance and security and decentralization forward. And we will be issuing the piece some point in the future. And you guys know it first. That's why this is a community call for our OG roles. It's alpha for you guys. We do intend to issue some content around how this blockchain trilemma, as people know, can be really turned around and be viewed as a blockchain flywheel if you utilize the right technique. And specifically, I saved validators as an independent topic I want to talk about, because right now, as we go live with our private testnet, with a few of the very large node operators supporting Ethereum, there's a specific benefits directly to the node operators, that is increasing APY. And we're testing that out with our node operators And it's very exciting because those API improvements gets passed down to eventually stakers and delegators that are real end users like you guys. So we are hopefully that in the testnet process we can identify how much of these API improvement we can deliver with our testnet partners. And Ethereum today, for example, gives you about 3.5 to ish in terms of APY. We're hoping to bump that up, meaningfully, so that it can really give a direct reason for not just the validator but also the end users to benefit from this. Okay, so maybe we just look at those further. Muriel, feel free to pick something that also looks interesting to you, but we think we can go from top to down. I think question 1 and 3 are kind of related, right? Like, plan to partner with existing chains, whether it's L1 or L2. Does it require a new protocol layer? Do you want to take that a little bit?
Yeah, happy to take those. So the idea is that this does not require a new protocol layer. It's an API. So again, think back on your computer. You have an operating system. That might be like the chain that you're on, say, virtual machine. Maybe it's a Solana virtual machine. Maybe it's an Ethereum virtual machine. And you would still have different choices as to what you do with respect to your computer's bus or your computer's memory, right? It's like you could run Windows or Linux or whatever is your preferred operating system, and still pick different ways of managing your memory and your propagation inside your network. So you can, if you wish, have, as Ken said, an L1 directly use Optimum, but we're also going to be available for existing protocols in a permissionless fashion for people to be able to speed up their performance, starting with Optimum P2P and later with decentralized RAM, the DRAM, without needing to change anything else in the chain. It's just basically, it's like if you upgraded your hardware but still kept your same operating system, versus somebody creating an operating system that already intelligently makes use of new developments and improvements in memory or bus.
Yeah, great. So let's move on a little bit. There are questions around plan to use only EVM or IBC and other ecosystems. Great question. So that kind of ties into to Muriel's answer, right? So we are VM agnostic. Think about again the computer that you have, or mobile phone for that matter, right? They all have memory in it, and whether you run a Windows or an iOS or an Android, really doesn't matter to the hardware. It doesn't matter to the memory inside. And for Web3, it should be the same. These VMs largely correspond to these operating systems in Web3, and we're agnostic to that. Some users are also asking, how does Optimum envision its role in the broader Web3 ecosystem in enabling use cases like DeFi, NFT, and decentralized storage? So I'm happy to take a quick one, and Muriel, feel free to expand. First, in our previous answer, in the first question of the use cases, right, we talk about how kind of latency and throughput sensitive dApps can really benefit from Optimum. So it could be NFT, it could be DeFi, but it doesn't stop there, right? Decentralized storage is also very interesting. We haven't really talked about that too much because we don't want people to kind of frame Optimum wrongly, but that is something that we can definitely do. So it could become potential ecosystem projects, before you know, built on Optimum. So maybe Muriel, you can expand on that or talk about something.
Yeah, so as I said, you can build on top of Optimum. Really, what it allows you to do is to build as though you were building on your own computer. So, the idea of having Optimum P2P and having DRAM is that you should be able to program without having to worry about, full nodes or about gossip or about this and that and the other, but just to be able to access data. And I wanted to go back to something that Kent mentioned, about any device that you use having its memory and how that works. So let me consider my computer right now, or my phone. So suppose on your phone that you have two different apps, and they both need to have access to, say, your contacts, right? So suppose that I have, I don't know, Telegram and WhatsApp, and they both need to have access to my contacts, or whatever you may be using. You don't have bridges that talk between the apps. You don't have also on your computer bridges that talk between the different programs on your computer. If two different entities on the same computer, on the same phone, need access to the same data, you just give them both access to the same data. So that's what we want to do in Web3. You should be able to access your data really in a completely transparent fashion, as though everybody was living on the same computer. And that's the really efficient way to do things, and the scalable way. It does not scale to have to bridge everything together all the time. It adds a lot of latency, and literally every time a new every time something new comes in, you would need a bridge. You would need to have a bridge to everything else before. So it doesn't scale. The only way that scales is to have common access to what's virtually the same computer.
Great. I think that's about the time we. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt if you're going. There was one question I want to highlight next.
Okay. I think that's about the time we have for this section, as we have a few other cool announcements on the winner of the meme contest, coming up, and I'm sure you guys are waiting for that. But there are, many great questions, at the bottom of this list we haven't really gotten to, right? Are there any partnerships? What makes Optimum different from L2s? People think of scaling, people think of L2s. How are they different? Is Optimum, a modular solution, compared with the fast TPS chains, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all very valid questions, and we want to address those. And potentially we will continue with these in another community call. We'll share some of these answers in our, future tweets. Sounds like there are ideas that you guys are, interested in. So, we can't answer all these today, but, thank you for answering, raising these questions. And, if this tool is working well, we can try it next time. And, we hope to see more participation in the question.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Let's get to the meme contest and see who the winners are. So just to kind of kick this off, all of you had a lot of just really excellent memes. The team and I had a blast looking at them, sharing them, laughing at them. But there were certainly a few that really stood out to us as really high quality or creative uses of our logo. And so really the goal is to highlight them here in this call. Additionally, we'll be putting out a tweet that kind of shouts you out from our official Twitter account. And going forward, we're going to have a highlights channel within the Discord where these tweets will be highlighted, but additionally, new tweets. So don't feel like the meme contest is over and you've missed it. There will still certainly be ways to get your memes recognized, but also, the high quality threads that we've seen from you guys already. So to kick this off, the first, winning meme is from Maxa Stark, and this stood out to us, because of the creative use of the logo with Pepe, and also a really great infographic, kind of leveraging the meme in addition to kind of the educational aspect and helping the community try to understand Optimum better. We really enjoyed that. I thought this card was awesome too. RLNC is such a powerful card in the deck. So really enjoyed that one. Nice work. The next one.
Yeah, I want to say one line about that, because it may not seem like a classic meme is just a photo. It has quite a bit of text on it. But what we see very interesting is the gamification potential of Optimum. That card on the right shows us that, kind of like how this could be turned into a game. In fact, we do have some community member already submitting Optimum games to help people learn about Optimum. So we're very thrilled by that. We want to encourage more of that.
The next winner is from Satoshi Flacco, and this one is awesome. It's Muriel with her Optimum goggles on, in a cave. She's kind of on the frontier of blockchain technology and exploring the potential and the ceiling this space can find. And so
I'm in my
really
cave right now. I'm in my cave.
So great job, Satoshi Flacco. Next one. This one, are you able to play it, Eli? Okay, great. This one was submitted pretty early on by D Pharrell Real, and this one is just like a robot kind of integrated with our logo. We just thought that, this animation really stood out, and was cool. Everybody loves robots, loves thinking about the future, and I think the robot is ready to plug into Optimum himself. So got a kick out of that one. Next one is from Gigi Juanina, and this kind of is just, the dream team, highlighting the team. We got a kick out of Kent and his, one round, referring to our $11 million seed round. That's pretty cool guy. He's like James Bond in this. So nice work with this one. And finally, one of our community members that's really stood out and kind of took a different approach to this meme contest is Dee, who really just has been doing an excellent job taking the sophistication associated with the RLNC technique and our products, and being able to condense those into really well structured threads, but also these graphics which kind of make it really tangible and digestible to understand what we're doing here at Optimum and the benefits associated with the solution that we're bringing to the market. So, congrats, Dee, really great work. And would love to see, more of this style of meme with a thread from all of you guys. So that's about it from the meme contest winners. Keep your eyes out. We'll be kind of highlighting these on Twitter and on Discord going forward. Just to wrap up the call here, our mods will be, looking for these awesome tweets and sending it to the team, and we'll be on top of this sort of stuff going forward. But we really want to get to know you guys more. And so we have a poll that we're going to put in the chat now. And it's really a way for us to understand who you are as a community member. Are you a DeFi user, a trader, a developer, a node operator? Where do you live? What language? We ultimately want to tailor this community experience to you guys, so it's really the best it can possibly be. So let us know your interests. And ultimately, one of the questions that we have on there is, what would you like to see in terms of our next community call? What did you like in this one? Or what would you like to see that you feel like, we didn't get to? That would all be super helpful. So, take a moment, check out that link, fill out that form, and it'll help us, really help structure the best community experience possible alongside you guys. So ultimately, that's all from our end. Thank you all so much for joining this first community call. And stay posted. Follow us on socials. Keep those notifications on. All that great stuff. So thank you guys, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.